What about, the other emerging technologies that are part of big data, Hadoop, Yarn, Spark? How should people think about incorporating them as they go forward? Joelle, are they always necessarily a part of a big data package?
So, unlike, I don't know enough about my colleagues, but, what we use in the infrastructure, Hadoop, Cassandra, MapReduce, what have you, is not really useful or meaningful to our clients. What they do is they want to plug into a web service and, get the data they need from us, the prediction that I think Mike was talking about, the data that we say should be on the page based on that, and then feedback, again, through the data feeds, what happened. And so whether or not we move infrastructures or improve or optimize something, that really is about the quality of the predictions, the speed and the volume, but none of that is exposed to the client in our case. And I think clients have to be very intellectually honest with themselves. We've had clients who, very, very large companies, who have said, we need to own this, we're going to build ourselves. The problem comes back to, in the world of e-commerce, the probability that you're seeing enough consumer traffic yourself, even if you're one of the biggest in the world, is very low. I think after Amazon, the next largest sees maybe 7% of the shopping traffic at Google, Amazon, and then everybody else.
You said even that is not enough traffic for those number 3 or 4 players?
It's not. It's not enough. And it's not enough when you start fragmenting things into different channels, different products, the long tail. And so, you have to be honest about, can you retain and hire the data scientists to build and create and maintain these complex systems, or should you be looking for the absolute best-in-class applications using big data and plug into them? And if you will, think of it as having the VC community funding labs of the best data scientists and find the one solving your problem, and then plug into that. So I'm not sure that the rampant pursuit of Hadoop and building it ourselves is actually the core competency, or the data, nor do they have the data, nor do they have the people.
You're saying many people really don't need to concern themselves, many business people don't need to concern themselves with Hadoop or MapReduce or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I may be disagreeing with Mike, but I think business people should be focused on what are the most important things I need to solve for the business, and then either with their own people or with their business partners, say what applications can solve these problems the most efficiently, the most reliably, on an ongoing basis.
Mike, how terribly wrong is Joelle there when she talks about not needing to worry about Hadoop and MapReduce?
No, I think she's actually right on when it comes to talking to business people about what their needs are and getting their needs met. And if you step back and look at big data, it came from Google, it came from Yahoo, it came from Facebook. These are technologies that came out of those things. People that use Google don't think about big data when they go do a Google search, right? So, I think to that case, if you've got an idea of doing consumer research or e-commerce research or the various cloud-hosted SaaS-type solutions, you ought to go and look at what people have already built and assembled and do a TCO study versus building it yourself. And in many cases, you'll come out far, far ahead by leveraging, as Joelle said, something that someone's already got leveraged work put into. But I think we're also seeing in a lot more IT enterprises the role of Hadoop and other technologies coming out for more than simply those it's kind of, I don't want to say Web 2.0 kinds of applications, but those really high-profile applications. We're seeing people using Hadoop really as a fundamental platform for offloading from their BI and data warehouses. We're seeing it using as a data lake or a data hub in some cases. We're seeing them use them for operational intelligence on their internal business processes. So I think big data platforms are still going to proliferate, although you may not see the high-end apps develop because people truly don't have the data scientists, as Joelle was saying. So, and then just to sort of answer your original question, I think another problem that Joelle could have pointed out too here is that Hadoop is not a one-size-fits-all answer. You do need things like NoSQL databases. You do need things like Spark, which is a a different kind of architecture than Hadoop that runs in parallel with it for real-time operational stuff. You do see some exploding ecosystem of pieces to have to try to manage. So it can be tough to put together your own big data solution.
Donna, should people be concerning themselves with Hadoop and Spark and Yarn and the sort of other emerging technologies, or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think, from a big data perspective, we always have thought about it as it's not just what's in Hadoop or in that NoSQL data store. I mean, the real power, and this is sort of what research is showing too, is in the data that you can actually store now in Hadoop or in NoSQL data stores, and then maybe some data that's in your data warehouse, right, or your operational data, or to Joelle's point, maybe it's data that's in another application. But when you take that data and you combine it with operational data, that gives you a completely different view of your business per se, or gives you an ability to answer questions that you couldn't before. So getting to the Hadoop piece of it, what we found is it's mostly I've got to capture all of this weblog information, and I'm capturing that in Hadoop. But again, and maybe I have a select set of data scientists that spend time refining algorithms with that data that's coming through. But then the real power comes in when you can bring that together with, say, some operational data that you have in a relational database. I can bring those data sources together and push that out to a business user who just wants to look at a dashboard every day. Or it's almost like it's just offering that access out to a broader set of users, and that's where it becomes really powerful. We find, in terms of the things like Yarn and Spark and Shark and all the other wonderful technologies, as it's a don't boil the ocean, right? So if you're just trying to offload your data warehouse and you're going to stand up a Hadoop cluster to do that, perhaps over time you may find that there's data sets in there that can be refined and put into an analytic database, and again, you can have your average business user running some types of analytics off of that. So it's all about really looking at where is the point where, for instance, with Storm as part of Yarn, where is that real-time component going to become so critical to my business that I'm going to need to look at a technology like that? And again, it's proceed with caution, right? There's so much out there. As a customer, you've got to understand what your use case is, what your business problem is you're trying to solve, so that you don't go head first into some technologies that really haven't been tried and tested yet at this point. Lots of interesting technology out there. We spend time in our labs looking at it, but maybe not ready for prime time in some cases.
Sanjay, it seems like the consensus or near consensus is many business decision makers can just use a single dashboard and not think too much about Hadoop or MapReduce. Is that your sense of things?
Well, I think one of the biggest benefits of Hadoop and all the underlying technologies and components has been for service providers, technology providers, vendors to incorporate the technologies or the principles underlying those. And so from the perspective of an end user, a business, or a company, I think one of the things that's been really interesting for us has been companies not necessarily asking us the differences between how they do it themselves and going with a vendor, but how we've incorporated some of those principles in our own service. And so and I think that part of the education is starting to happen more and more, which is there has to be a rationale, a business reason for doing it, for using these technologies. And as long as you can explain how you're using it, why you're using it, what the ultimate benefit is from an application perspective, then I think most companies are pretty comfortable saying, hey, for a purpose-built application, I'm not going to go off and try and recreate what company X has done or company Y has done. And I think that's what's happening, is that there's enough evidence out there of how these technologies work that companies are asking their service providers and their vendors questions about their implementation of these technologies. And that's almost the best benefit.
Oh, they actually want to get under the hood a little bit.
Well, they want to understand how your particular service is using it. And now, once again, different than Joelle, we sell to IT and security professionals and folks who want to understand some of the innards of it, because they have to hook this into their infrastructure. And so, they're oftentimes making a buy versus build decision. And when they're doing that, our ability to help them understand sort of that underlying architecture is a bit of a, milk and cookies sort of situation where they feel comfortable after talking to us.
You mean they get the milk and cookies, meaning they get comfortable with it?
Yeah, exactly.